Alright, so this is the Finding Assessments and Critiquing Assessments podcast. So there's a table in the reading. I just kind of broke it down. It's the assessment process. So what you want to do is first you'll receive a referral. It can come, from different ways. It can come from a doctor or family or a residential setting, anything like that. Then you'll want to have that initial contact with your participant or with your client, just kind of getting to know them, kind of let them know what's gonna happen and what your goals are and stuff, and then you're gonna want to begin your assessment. And this can involve obviously the participant, but it can involve their family, or it can also involve a team. You want to make sure that in the assessment you're choosing the appropriate techniques to help them reach their goals, and you want to choose the appropriate environments, and by that they mean if they are working on a social goal, you want to have them in a social environment, or if they're working on something physical, you want to be able to provide an environment where they're going to develop physically. And then they kind of break down the appropriate techniques and the appropriate environments a little bit more, just kind of like I talked about, but you can see on the right, appropriate techniques if whether you do an interview, if you're doing an observation, a standardized assessment, or ecological assessment. Those things are what we should be doing when we're choosing a technique. And like I was saying, with the environments, you can work with them if they want to achieve things at home or school or work, community, alone, or sometimes in groups. As you continue the assessment process, you're going to collect data, and you're going to want to compile and report or share those results, especially if you're working with the team. That's where you're going to report and share those. And you're going to use assessment data to develop a plan in collaboration with participant and other team members, so that you can help them just be successful as they can. So why are we doing an assessment? Well, an initial assessment is a starting point. This is where you're going to meet your client, and you're going to see their goals and kind of get your own with them and move forward to reach those goals. It helps, obviously, the TRS get to know the client and what their needs are, what their strengths, abilities are, what maybe their weaknesses are. And most often it's done in an interview type setting. So we're kind of breaking down each part of an assessment now. So you have your initial assessment, you just kind of meet them, get to know them, but then after that assessment, you're going to do an in-depth assessment. So that's where you're going to be able to see a little bit more about them, and that's where the knowledge of kind of what tools you want to use, what methods, what places you want to work with them are going to come into play. You're going to implement the assessment and collect the data, and this kind of helps you get a true picture of who the client is and what their abilities are and how they act in their environments. Same thing, once you compile all the results, you're going to share those. In the reading, it talked about this as being, I use the metaphor as a tree. My cousin and I collaborated and came up with this beautiful tree here on paint. But anyway, the trunk is basically like your initial contact and the assessment part, and then you can kind of see the branches in throughout the tree, and those are just the different processes, the different ways that you can go. And sometimes clients will only need a couple of branches to be able to reach their goals, but sometimes they might need all of them. I thought that was pretty cool. So now we are going to talk about the assessment techniques and approaches. There are several different ways to collect assessment information. So these are all the different ways that you can find information on an assessment. You can do a record review. You can do interviews with them. You can just do some observation. You can do a standardized assessment or ecological assessment. So in the record review, This assessment helps provide you with the context and history of the patient. So you just, are kind of going over their records from different places, and it helps you collect just like the basic information. And I liked this quote. It says, as a therapeutic recreation specialist, the primary source information you collect from the participant will be more valuable to you. Here is an example of just kind of like an interview. I liked this picture because it shows them working together, but she could definitely be gathering information as well. So the different types of interviews, there's a conversational interview, there's the interview guide approach, standardized open-ended interview approach, and the standardized close-ended interview. Let's go back to this one really quick. So in the conversational and the interview guide approach, you still have goals, but it's not as goals of what you want to accomplish and things you want to understand from the client, but it's not as in-depth. Whereas the standardized open-ended interview approach and the standardized close-ended interview approach are very much, you have like, your basic questions, and they can answer however they want. Or with the close-ended, it's, you ask a question and it could be like the example in the book is, during your recreational experiences, how often do you feel completely absorbed by the activity? All the time, some of the time, or never? So you kind of give them their answers and record the information from that. Okay, so there's different phases of an interview. You have the beginning phase, obviously, where you're kind of just meeting the client, gathering a rapport, and going to inform the client what's going to take place. This is what we're going to do. We're going to sit down and talk for a few minutes, or I would like you to take this, answer these questions on this assessment, or just kind of get a goal so that you can work together that way. Then you have the working phase. You're going to use your active listening skills, just really hone in on what is important to the client, how you can best help them. And then there's the termination phase. You just thank the participant for, being there with you and for participating. And then you can invite them to ask any questions that they might have for you. We're going to break this down too. So we're going to talk about observation. Plato said you can discover more about a person in an hour of play than a year of conversation. Sorry, a year, not a year. So standardized assessment tools and measurements. So these have been developed to gather data in a consistent and predictable manner. There's several different forms. The standardized assessment tools have been tested for validity and reliability, and often they must be administered according to set instructions and conditions with the population for whom they were developed. And this allows you to focus on and measure and assess the targeted area that you're working for. And sometimes they're called battery, and this just means that the assessment contains multiple forms measuring different aspects of a person or construct. So in observation, it's just kind of a natural way for us to learn about people and the world around us. So when you're observing, you want to choose a behavior or situation that you want to assess. Then you're going to decide if you're going to observe a qualitative or quantitative way. And then you're going to choose when, where, and how long you're going to observe this for. And if you're having other people observe with you, you want to make sure that they're trained and that you're kind of looking for the same goal so that your reliability and validity will be the same. And then you're going to check for agreement by comparing your data with other observers. It's an ecological assessment, and this looks at the person in the environment. It can be a broad or very, very specific, like focused goal. Your broad ecological assessment helps you know about the person and their environment, and the focus assessment looks at their abilities in relation to the demands of their environment on them. So where, how they can participate in different things more specifically. I really liked this quote from the reading. It says, "There's no one good way or magic bullet to complete an assessment. You must choose an approach that best fits with your practice setting and the participants you serve, and that best allows you to learn about the strengths, dreams, goals, and aspirations of the participants." I think that just comes with time as we, you know, have goals for ourselves as TRSs and have a desire to help our clients. Then the more time and more practice we have, the better that we'll be able to complete an assessment. And that is the end. Thank you.